So in our previous video, we had the Realme X7 Max, India's first phone with the Dimensity 1200 SoC. And today we have yet another new phone with yet another new chip. I'm talking about the iQOO Z3 5G, which is India's first phone with Snapdragon 768G. And the moment a new chip comes in, we really want to put it through its paces with respect to how it performs. Therefore, we decided to compare it against two of the most powerful chips in this price range, the Snapdragon 750G inside the Mi 10i, and of course the 860 inside the Poco X3 Pro. Now, I've consciously avoided bringing the Exynos 9825 and the Snapdragon 865 into the conversation because these chips are really old. And of course, the Snapdragon 865 toting phones like the Realme X3 and the iQOO 3, which were available for under 25,000 rupees, which is the base variant of those, are currently sold out. Also, I had made this video about the Exynos 9825 inside the Samsung Galaxy F62 throttling a lot. You guys should go check it out. Anyway, my name is Arshad. You're watching My Smart Price English, and in this video, we're going to be, of course, putting the Snapdragon 765G through its paces. Let's get started. But before we move on, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever My Smart Price puts out an awesome new tech video, because we can take all the subscription right now. We're trying to hit 100k really soon. We started off by testing Geekbench on all the three phones. As expected, the Poco X3 Pro with Snapdragon 860 comes out on top with the best single core and multi-core scores. The iQOO Z3 5G with 768G comes in second with a very respectable score as well, followed by the Mi 10i with the Snapdragon 750G. In fact, I must mention here that these scores of the Mi 10i could also be indicative of the performance that we can expect from the upcoming Nord CE 5G, which is expected to use the same chip. Next, we moved on to Antutu version 9, which is a slightly more holistic test which takes into account the CPU, GPU and memory or RAM performance into account. Again, the Snapdragon 860 shows its might here. It is by far the most powerful phone of the three. It manages a score of over 5.7 lakh as opposed to 4.5 lakh odd achieved by the iQOO Z3 5G with Snapdragon 768G. The Snapdragon 750G is definitely lagging behind now. Note that I didn't run back-to-back Antutu tests because we have specialized stress tests for you, starting with CPU throttle. And this is where you realize that despite all the power offered by the Snapdragon 860, there is significant throttling after 30 minutes of continuous run. You can see that the 768G doesn't throttle as much, nor does the 750G. While we saw how CPU throttled in the three chips, let's check how the GPUs function under stress. For this, we use the 3D Mark stress test, which plays a graphics-laden sequence on top. With respect to stability, the 768G and the 750G were on par, and no surprises there really. The Poco X3 Pro with the Snapdragon 860 had a slightly lower stability score, but at 97.8% is not too bad really. However, the Poco X3 Pro touched 47 degrees, whereas the Z3 5G and the Mi 10i were at 40 degrees. I did feel the heat too in my hands. As for the battery drop, the Poco X3 Pro dropped the most with 9% drop in 20 minutes, but that's fine really considering the amount of power on offer. Also, it's not too much of a drop. Overall, the GPU performance is the best on the Poco X3 Pro, but we shall confirm that in our real-world gaming test. Now, if you've come this far and if you like what we've made, don't forget to hit that like button and maybe even comment below. It doesn't take money. Please go ahead and do that so that the YouTube algorithm can actually push this video to more people looking for similar videos. In our real-world gaming test, I played 20 minutes of Call of Duty Mobile on all the three phones, starting with the Mi 10i first, which has the 750G of course. The Mi 10i could play the game at high graphics and max frame rates. I did notice some frame drops occasionally and the phone did get pretty warm. In fact, it was the hottest of the three. I moved to the Poco X3 Pro next, which can actually play the game at very high graphics and max FPS. But I pulled it down to high graphics to maintain parity with the three phones. The Poco X3 Pro was just gliding through the game. I was landing more headshots and my gameplay was generally better just because the phone was so powerful. It didn't get too hot either. Now, I finished this round of testing with the iQOO Z3 5G with Snapdragon 768G, and it maxed out at, max FPS and high graphics too, similar to the 750G. However, there were fewer frame drops compared to the 750G. Although I must say this, the iQOO Z3's oleophobic coating is extremely average, and I had the oily finger problem while touching its screen. I'm not really a fan of, the feel of the screen. Plus, the display doesn't get too bright either compared to the other two phones. That said, as you can see in this final chart here, the iQOO Z3 ran the coolest and lost the least battery in our real-world testing as well. In general, iQOO's performance optimization with FunTouch OS is generally more stable compared to MIUI on many phones, including the Poco X3 Pro and the Mate NI here. Regardless, I'd easily pick the Poco X3 Pro with Snapdragon 860 as the best gaming phone under Rs 25,000. So it goes without saying that the Poco X3 Pro with Snapdragon 860 is the most powerful phone that you can buy right now for gaming under Rs 25,000. Yes, MIUI tends to throttle CPU performance, but when it comes to raw GPU grunt, what the Snapdragon 860 can offer, the others cannot in this price range. But the Snapdragon 768G inside the iQOO Z3 5G is no slouch. Plus, you also get 5G along with it, which is not available on the Snapdragon 860, which means that this makes the phone future-proof. And for those who are wondering, the iQOO Z3 5G supports the N77 and N78 bands. Now the 750G inside the Mate NI is pretty good even today, but newer, better chips are obviously coming. For example, the 768G, which is there inside this, and of course the 778 and the 780. All of these are actually going to be really more powerful chips, powering the next generation of mid-range phones. Now the 750G is possibly at the fag end of its cycle, which begs the question, why is OnePlus launching the Nord CE 5G with the 750G at the fag end of its cycle? OnePlus rarely ever does that. I mean, it always is at the top of the SoC launch cycle, which makes me want to believe that OnePlus is possibly, doing that to actually gain market share and, of course, make a killing out of it. But more on that in our OnePlus Nord CE 5G video. So what did you guys think of the iQOO Z3's 768G performance? Do let us know in the comment section below. I hope you guys liked this video. Until next time, this is Ershad from My Smart Price signing off. Goodbye and Godspeed, my friends.